Hello everyone, how are you today? I hope you've had a lovely, lovely week. Well, today we're going to carry on finding interesting things to look at in the park. And I thought we could look for some creatures, some insects, and maybe some birds, because you know how much I love birds. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look for some creatures in the park. And I feel certain that when you go to the park with your special grown up, whether it's your mummy or your daddy or your granny or grandpa or an uncle or auntie, or maybe a big brother or sister or somebody special, that you can see loads of lovely things in the park, insects and animals and birds. So today we're going to look, but first of all, we're going to look at a tree, because a lot of insects and animals and creatures live in trees and use trees to hide in, and for their shelter, for their home, and also to get food. So if you're a squirrel, for instance, you would love to find an oak tree, because in the autumn time, the oak tree has lots of lovely acorns, yummy and scrummy if you are a squirrel. So here we go. I had a little nut tree, nothing would it bear but a silver nutmeg and a golden pear. The King of Spain's daughter came to marry me, and all for the sake of my little nut tree. It must have been a very special nut tree, don't you think, to come all the way from Spain? But nutmegs, when this song was written, it's a very old song, and nutmegs were very, very special for cooking. And they didn't grow in our country, so they had to come from far away, so they were very precious and prized. Now then, I wonder if in that little nut tree there was a spider. Granny Spider sits and knits. She sits and knits with all her wits. She spins a line of silky twine and sits and knits all day. Do you know what knitting looks like? You have two long needles and you have the wool and you put it over and under on each knitting needle. Well, spiders don't really knit, do they? Because they have a special place in their tummy that makes their thread, their what we call in this twine, the silky twine that we say in this song. Let's do it again. Granny Spider sits and knits. That's it. Get your fingers going like this. She sits and knits with all her wits. Her wits are her brains. She spins a line, so spin it really fast and really long, of silky twine, and sits and knits all day. What a busy spider she is. Now then, I think that very near the busy spider, maybe higher up in the tree, there might be a beehive. So can you make one fist like this and then put the other one round the outside, so you've sort of wrapped up one hand with the other hand? Here is the beehive. But where are all the bees? They're hidden inside where nobody sees. Now, so we've got to go. So now you take your hand that's on the inside. So I'll just turn myself round. See, my hand on the inside is going to start putting the fingers out on the outside. So now I'm going to turn back this way so you can see. That's it. They're hidden inside where nobody sees. Soon they come creeping out of their hive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, do you know, in my garden at the moment, I have lots and lots of bees coming to see all the flowers in my garden. And it's so interesting. Sometimes I stand really still in the garden next to a plant where I know the bees like to visit. And I just watch them. And they're so busy. And you can see on the side of their bodies, they have big collections, like little yellow bags. And that is the pollen. And they're going to take it back to the hive. So it's very, very interesting. Now then, I wonder who else we might see in the park. Whether we've seen some bees and we've seen spiders, and we've obviously there's loads of trees and flowers. Oh, I wonder if I look down on the ground, and if there was a stone, if I was to lift it up, what would be underneath? A worm. Can you make a wiggly worm? Underneath the stone where the earth is firm, there I found a wriggly, wriggly worm. Good morning, I said, how are you today? But the wriggly worm just wriggled away. It's gone. Let's make a worm in this hand. Can you wiggle your finger on this hand? So we'll do it again, but we'll do it with this finger this time. Underneath the stone, so lift up the stone with your other hand, where the earth is firm, there I found a wriggly, wriggly worm. Good morning, I said, how are you today? But the wriggly worm just wriggled away. Gone. Worms like it being underneath things, don't they? They don't really like being on the top because they like being in the soil where it's nice and wet, and they can forage around and get nice things to eat. They don't like it on the top. Now then, let's see who might also be looking for a worm. Maybe somebody who would like to eat a worm. Who likes eating worms? You don't like eating worms. No. Worms are not for us. Worms are for birds. Or maybe the 5 little ducks. Let's count them, shall we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And look, I'm going to say Daddy Duck today. There is Daddy Duck. So Mummy Duck's having a rest, and here's Daddy Duck's looking after all the babies today. 5 little ducks went swimming one day over the hills and far away. Daddy Duck said, quack, 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 quack. But this little duck went to play with the squirrels. Quack, 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 quack. Gone. So how many ducks came swimming back? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 little ducks went swimming one day over the hills and far away. Daddy Duck said, quack, 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 quack. But this little duck went to play with the swans. Quack, 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 quack. So only 1, 2, 3 little ducks came swimming back. 3 little ducks went swimming one day over the hills and far away. Daddy Duck said, quack, 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 quack. But this little duck went to play with the badgers. Quack, 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 quack. So only 1, 2 little ducks came swimming back. 2 little ducks went swimming one day over the hills and far away. Daddy Duck said, quack, 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 quack. But this little duck went to play with the butterflies. So only 1 little duck came back. 1 little duck went swimming one day over the hills and far away. Daddy Duck said, quack, 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 quack. But this little duck went to play with the otters. So no little ducks came swimming back. So Daddy Duck went for a swim one day, over the hills and far away. Daddy Duck said, "Quack, quack, quack, quack," with a very, very loud quack. And then he went to stand on the riverbank and wait for all his babies to come back. And all of the 5 little ducks came back. Quack, quack, quack. Quack. Quack, quack, quack. They're telling Daddy where they've been and what they've been up to. We can't understand because we're not ducks, but Daddy understands. Quack, 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 quack. Quack, quack. So Daddy was so pleased to see the little ducks, he gave them all a kiss. There we are. All of the 5 little ducks came back. Should we just make sure there are definitely 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we are. Now we'll say goodbye to Daddy Duck and all the baby ducks because I think that they're going to have some tea now. So off they go. And we're going to go into the park and we're going to think, what can we hear? What different creatures and animals can we hear? So let me see now. You've got to listen now. You've got to listen very quietly. I can hear some birds. Can you hear some birds? Oh, whack, 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 whack. What's that noise I can hear? Zzz, zzz. Can you hear the bees? I can hear the bees. They're foraging in all the flowers. Oh, they're going to make lots of honey for our tea. What's that noise I can hear now? I can hear the sound of the wind rustling through the trees. I can hear the sounds of the leaves rustling. Can you hear them? So many sounds you can hear when you stop and you just listen. And maybe you can hear somebody's bicycle pedals and wheels going round and round. Maybe you can hear somebody with a tennis racket and a tennis ball. Maybe you can hear some water in a fountain or in a pond. And then maybe you can hear whack, 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 whack. You can hear some ducks. Well, I hope you have a lovely time the next time you go to the park, looking for things and listening to things. And then you can tell me all about it the next time I see you. Lots of love from me. Bye-bye. See you soon.